Hi guys, welcome to Engineering Bookisha. My name is Ishatou. I'm an engineering student and I love books. And today I'm going to be talking about why/how I decided to become a civil engineer and to study civil engineering in college. It's kind of weird talking to you guys knowing that this is my second video, because I think I actually made like 3 videos since my first video, but decided not to post them or took them down. This YouTube journey it's interesting. I don't want to make videos that I don't like. I want to make videos that I would watch at least in the near future. I feel like maybe in like 4 years, if I watch a video and I'm like, oh, that was cringe, then that'll be fine. But if I just post a video and I can't stand it, then I don't understand why I'm showing it to other people. So that's kind of the reason why I haven't posted in a while, but hopefully we're back. And I thought we should start kind of go through my engineering journey in chronological order. As I mentioned in my first video, I just finished my second year of studying engineering, and yeah, so I guess we'll talk about kind of how I learned about this. First I want to shout out Rokaya, who commented on my first video, and she's really the reason why I'm making another video, because I have a lot of doubts around YouTube, and she kind of showed me kind of the reason why I should continue. So first, how did I learn about civil engineering? So I think since growing up, I did not hear much about the engineering field. Most of my family, most people that I know who have graduated college and have careers in my personal life are in the medical field. That's it. Like in nurses, a lot of nurses aides, doctors, and obviously I heard about accounting more often. I heard about business more often. The only type of engineering that I heard of in my high school that people talked about and people planned to be was software engineers and computer science. And I did hear a little about mechanical engineering, but I had never heard of civil engineering before 11th grade. So let's start from the beginning. So when I was 12 years old, I was told by my parents that I was going to be a doctor. And from the parents' perspective, it is a reliable career field. It's always going to be available, so that's why they want their children to do it. And it's also pretty prestigious. But in the summer after my sophomore year, so I lived in Gambia for a while, and I came back to America and started 10th grade. And the summer after that, I went to visit one of my older sisters in Kentucky, and she finished at the time she was studying nursing, and she was working as a nurse's aide in a hospital. And she kept telling me about all these nasty things that she had to do at her job, and I was like, ew. I don't think I want to work with people in that way. I love people, love people, but I do not think that I want to work with people's bodies. And I told my dad I wanted to become a teacher, because that was another career field that was available to me. Obviously I was in school, so I saw teachers. I loved English. I was good at math. In college is another story, but in high school I was good at math, and I love English. So in my mind I was like, I could become an English or math teacher. So I told my dad, and the first time I mentioned it to him, he was like, okay. I think he thought I was just talking, and then I kept mentioning it, and then he actually was like, no, you cannot do that, it does not make enough money. And him and I got into an argument. When you're younger, when you're that age, you're just angry and your response to everything is arguing. So I got into an argument with my dad, because I was like, I don't want to be a doctor. I do not want to work in the medical field whatsoever. I do not want to be a nurse. I don't want to be in that field. And I went to one of my teachers, my favorite teacher at the time. She was my earth science teacher, and I went to her, and every day after school I would rage about my dad and be like, oh my god, my dad won't let me follow my dreams. And I was just so mad, and I also, in the back of my head, I kind of understood where my dad was coming from. I come from a very low income working class family, and I have a lot of responsibility already. So it's like I want to have a career that makes money. but I also want to have a career that I'm passionate about and where I know that I'm helping people and benefiting humanity. So my teacher did some research for me, and she came back and suggested speech therapy, because she was like, you can be helping people, you don't have to be in college for too long, and you're working with people. And I was like, okay. So I talked to my dad. He was like, yeah, that all of those things are true, but that is not there are not too many job opportunities for that across the world, because everyone who knows me knows that I want to work internationally. I want to work in Africa at one point in my life. So I came back to my teacher, and she was like, okay. And one day she called me, and she was like, oh my god, I think I found the perfect thing for you. And she told me about civil engineering. She said, you work with people, you get to work with math and science, you get to be creative. It's like everything, it's perfect for your personality. Now I was like, civil engineering, and for some reason I felt like it had to do with law, which is quite weird. I think because of the civil part. And I was like, okay, I like that you're saying that it has all these aspects that have something to do with me and my personality, but what is this? And she, I think I searched it up later, and I found out that civil engineers basically work with the built environment. So buildings, roads, dams, airports, bridges, highways, anything that's built, civil engineers have worked on it. The Great Wall of China, the Eiffel Tower, and I just found that to be so amazing. And I told my dad, and after talking to some people, he was very much on board. Most of my family was very much on board. And now I was kind of like plunging into this new thing. It was exciting. It was something outside of the medical field. It was something I never heard about, and it seemed to have endless possibilities. And there's so many different types of engineers. That was in my junior year. So after junior year, I started my senior year and college applications, and I applied everywhere as a civil engineering major. But I still did not have any real experience with it. I had never met a civil engineer. I did not know anyone who was a civil engineer. I didn't really even hear of anyone in my personal circles who was a civil engineer. But I read a lot about it. I watched videos. There's not enough content, especially personalized content like this when it comes to civil engineering. When I was coming into college, there was no like personal YouTube civil engineer, like someone who's in college or someone my age. There were a lot of advice channels. There were a lot of university department channels. Now, aside from me, there is another channel. Her name is Virtue, and her channel is The Virtuous Life, and she does civil engineering videos. She's the same year as me actually, and she does civil engineering videos in London. So if you're in the United Kingdom, or in a system that's similar to the United Kingdom, I suggest you watch her. And I think there are a few for some other parts of the world. And the systems are all different, like the studying systems are all different across the world. So I thought I should do a channel about the journey in the United States. Anyways, let me get back on track. So I started college in this civil engineering major, and in the I think in most colleges in the United States, my college specifically, for the first 2 years you're taking generalized engineering classes. So you don't touch your major whatsoever. I had one class that has to do with my major, but so far I have done no classes with my major. They've been general engineering classes, general math, general science. So my first semester was very hard. Being almost an A student in high school and then coming to college, my grade just plummeted. So it was a very hard first year. So I felt very disconnected from my major, and I heard about shadowing. This is something else that I heard about, but I had no idea how to do it. At the time, there were no resources on the internet for how to get a shadowing opportunity. For anyone who doesn't know, when you shadow in a field, basically you just go to the office and you watch people work. That's it. Like, you watch people work, you see what they do, and you kind of use it to assess if you would be okay working in this environment. And so in my first semester, I was able to get in contact with somebody from my department, and she connected me to a company back home in New York, and I shadowed for a week. During that time, I shadowed for 8 different engineering departments, which is so amazing, and I had a great experience. I loved the company I shadowed at. I think I want to work there, but I loved it, and I decided I wanted to stay in the major. So that was kind of the story of how I came to learn about civil engineering. But I think sitting here now, if you ask me, why do you want to be a civil engineer? My main reason would be that I want to build a safer world for people. I want to be part of building a place where people can get everything they need. Part of civil engineering that I'm most invested in and that I'm most interested in are transportation engineering and urban planning. I think that the way in which civil engineering particularly helps people is that it helps with day-to-day life. I think engineering in general helps with day-to-day life in a way that is not that noticeable, but it's very, very helpful. For example, when we talk about transportation and access to transportation, the way a city is built and the way the transportation facilities are planned plays a big role into things that have to do with economy and social class and equity. Because, for example, I live in New York City. That's my primary home, and in New York City there's a pretty efficient transportation system. So I live in the Bronx, and most people work in Manhattan, which is many miles away, but they can get to Manhattan through a train paying about $2 to $3, or you can get to your workplace through a bus. You can get to a school, so people can go to better schools. People can go to better schools because they have access to transportation. The city that I go to school in Buffalo, it is like most cities in America, particularly, where the primary mode of transportation is cars. But there are people who don't have access to cars and therefore don't have access to jobs. So when I think about things like that, that is one of the ways I see where an engineer can step in and work with people like urban planners to help fix a problem like that. We have many different fields. I'm actually going to leave an article below that talks about the different fields that are in civil engineering. I learned about 8, which brings me to my next reason, which is that civil engineering is very flexible. In civil, you can in my first semester of college, I had this event with this organization, and an alumni came over, and he retired, and he was telling me that he worked at an engineering company for I think like 30 years and did 22 different jobs during that time and traveled to like 20 or 30 different countries. So civil engineering has different opportunities. You're not stuck in one mold. You're not stuck doing one task when you get to the job. When I shadowed at that company, one of the people were telling me that she did her master's in a particular type of engineering, civil engineering, but then came and realized that she loved another part. So she did her master's in structural engineering, which is part of civil engineering. But then when she started working, she loved geotechnical engineering. So that's what she does now instead of structural. So there's a lot of crossover. You can do different fields, and you also have access. This is my third point. You have access to different fields outside of engineering. So as a civil engineer, you work with urban planners, you work with geographers, you work with sociologists, and you work with every other engineering field. Say you are a structural engineer, so you're working on building a building. I don't know if that makes sense, but you're working on a building as a structural engineer. That means you're working with the electrical engineers. Perhaps for the mechanics, you're working with the mechanical engineers. You're working with the systems engineers, you're working with architects, you're working with real estate people, you're working with construction people. So with engineering, you have access to different types of people, to different types of careers, which for one just give you a broader, like, I think having access to different types of people and people in different walks of life and different lifestyles just gives you a richer, fuller life. But it also gives you an opportunity to explore more things that you like, because as a civil engineering student, because I'm in a major that has access to so many different fields, I have been able to dabble in urban planning. I actually have been able to dabble in geography, to work with sociology. So you get access to different things, and when you do graduate with that civil engineering degree, there's not one path. There's so many things you can do with that degree. Another reason, which is a top reason, is money. Civil engineering is a very well paying career field, and that leads to another thing, which is that it has a lot of available jobs. Engineering, it's always employing, it always needs a lot of people. The world is expanding, cities are growing exponentially, so the world needs people to work on the built environment constantly. Civil engineering is one of the oldest professions, so the world constantly needs new things built, new things created, new innovations to solve physical problems. So civil engineers are always having jobs. That job will always be available, and that is very important to me personally, because I want to be able to be certain that when I graduate I will have a job, and with civil engineering I'm completely certain of that. Is there anything else? Yeah, I don't think I can think of any other reasons right now, but just to summarize, I can help people. I get access to many different types of careers. It is a very flexible field. It is high paying, and it has many available jobs. And if there's anything that I didn't touch on, if there's any reason, if you're a civil engineer, if you know about civil engineering, and there are any more reasons that I should have mentioned, please mention that in the comments. And yeah, please mention that in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next video.